The stars were cold and silent in the year 2847. Humanity had spread across 12 star systems, building homes on distant worlds and moons. They called their territory the Quiet Zone because humans wanted only one thing from the galaxy: to be left alone. Admiral Park stood at the observation window of Sentinel-7, Earth's largest defense station. He was an old man now with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and watched too many good soldiers die. His uniform was simple, without medals or decorations. He did not need them. Everyone knew who he was. "Sir, we have a transmission from the Galactic Council," said his assistant, a young officer named O. Turned slowly. "What do they want?" "The Dominion. They have announced their intention to pass through our space." Closed his eyes for a moment. There were insects, not the small kind that crawled on Earth long ago, but massive creatures with hard shells and sharp claws. They stood 3 meters tall and had conquered over 200 worlds. They ate the species they defeated. They kept no prisoners. "Show me," he said. The screen lit up with the image of High Tyrant Morrow, leader of the invasion fleet. He had 6 eyes, all of them black and empty like holes in space. His voice was like metal scraping against stone. "We are the Dominion. We will pass through the territory you call yours. Do not interfere. Your small species is of no interest to us. Stay out of our way and you will not be harmed." Watched the message twice. Then he sat down at his console and typed a response. It was short, only 12 words. "Do not enter our space. This is your only warning, Admiral Park." He sent it and stood up again. "Contact Earth. Tell them to wake the President." On Earth, in the city of Seoul, President received the news at 3 in the morning. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had been a teacher before she entered politics, and she still spoke to everyone as if they were her students. "How many ships?" she asked. 3,000 warships, said General. He was the oldest man in the room, older even than Admiral. His face was like a map of every battle humanity had ever fought. 2 million soldiers. The civilian advisors around the table looked sick with fear. One of them, a young man from the diplomatic office, spoke up. "We should negotiate, offer them safe passage, promise not to interfere with their conquest." Looked at him, and when they finish their conquest, when they return through our space hungry for more worlds, what then? The young man had no answer. General spoke quietly. "They have been warned. They will ignore the warning. They always do." "And then?" asked. The old general's face did not change. "Then we do what we have always done. We protect our own." Far away aboard his flagship, High Tyrant Morrow received Admiral's message. He read it once and then began to laugh. The sound was terrible, like bones breaking. "The mammals threaten us," he said to his commanders. "These soft, weak creatures who live only 100 years, they threaten the Dominion." His commanders joined in the laughter. It spread through the entire ship, then to other ships, until the whole fleet was laughing at the tiny species that dared to send them a warning. Morrow ordered the message broadcast to the entire quadrant. He wanted everyone to hear. He wanted everyone to know that the humans were fools. "We enter their space tomorrow," he announced. "Let them try to stop us." Back on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath the mountains of Korea, Dr. Lee received a phone call. She was a thin woman with glasses and messy hair. She had not slept in 30 hours, but her hands were steady as she answered. "This is Lee." "Authorization code Black Mirror," said the voice on the other end. "The President has given her approval." Closed her eyes. She had hoped this day would never come. She had built the program, created the technology, and trained the subjects, but she had always prayed they would never be needed. "I understand," she said. She walked through the dark hallways of the facility until she reached a door marked with a single word: Echo. Inside were 12 pods, each one containing a human body floating in blue liquid. They looked peaceful, like they were sleeping. But they were not sleeping. They were not even alive, not in the way normal people understood life. "Wake them up," whispered to her team, all of them. The pods began to glow. On Sentinel-7, Admiral watched the fleet approaching the border of human space. 3,000 ships, each one bristling with weapons. 2 million soldiers, each one eager to kill. Commander stood beside him. "Sir, they will cross the border in 6 hours." Nodded slowly. "Then we have 6 hours to prepare." "Are we going to fight them, sir?" The old admiral turned to look at her. His eyes were sad, but his voice was firm. "No, Commander, we are not going to fight them. Fighting is what you do when there is a chance you might lose." He turned back to the window. "What we are going to do is something else entirely." Outside, the stars continued to shine, cold and silent. They did not care about thee or their arrogance. They did not care about humanity or their secrets. They had watched species rise and fall for billions of years. Soon, they would watch another one fall. They had been warned. They had laughed at the warning. They did not understand that humans never made threats. They only made promises. The armada crossed into human space with drums beating and flags flying. High Tyrant Moro stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars pass by. He felt like a god. He felt unstoppable. "Any response from the humans?" he asked. "Nothing, High Tyrant," said his communications officer. "Complete silence." Morrow smiled. His mandibles clicked together with satisfaction. "They are afraid, as they should be." For 3 days, the fleet moved deeper into human territory. They passed asteroid fields and empty moons. They saw no human ships. They received no messages. The silence was total. Some of the younger officers began to feel uneasy. Where were the humans? Why were they not defending their space? But the older commanders laughed at their fears. The humans were hiding, they said. The humans were cowards. On the 4th day, something changed. A small shuttle appeared on the sensors. It was barely larger than a transport pod, with no weapons and no shields. It approached the flagship slowly, broadcasting a simple message: "Request permission to deliver formal communication." Morrow was surprised. He had expected the humans to run, not to send messengers. But he was also curious. He wanted to see what these strange creatures looked like up close. "Let them dock," he ordered. "Bring their messenger to me." The shuttle landed in the flagship's main hangar. When the door opened, a single human stepped out. She was young, with short black hair and a calm expression. Her uniform was simple gray, with no weapons visible. She looked very small, surrounded by warriors. Her name was Lieutenant Sara. She was 26 years old. She had joined the diplomatic corps because she believed in peace. Now she walked through a ship full of monsters, and her heart was steady. They escorted her to the throne room. It was a massive chamber, filled with warriors standing in perfect rows. At the far end sat High Tyrant Morrow on a throne made of bones, the bones of conquered species. Sara walked the length of the room without looking left or right. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. When she reached the throne, she stopped and bowed politely. "High Tyrant Morrow," she said, "I bring a message from the United Earth Government." Morrow leaned forward. His 6 eyes studied her like she was an interesting insect. "Speak, little mammal." Sara straightened her back. "You have violated our sovereign space. You were given one warning which you ignored. This message serves as your final notification. You have 6 hours to reverse course and leave our territory." Laughter rippled through the throne room. The warriors clicked their claws together in amusement. Morrow himself laughed the loudest. "And if we do not leave," he asked, "what will you do, little human? What can your tiny species possibly do to stop us?" Sora did not smile. She did not frown. Her face showed nothing at all. "Then I am instructed to apologize in advance for what comes next." Morrow stopped laughing. There was something in her voice that made him uncomfortable. something cold and certain. "You apologize for what?" Sora met his eyes without fear. "For everything." Morrow stared at her for a long moment. Then he waved his claw dismissively. "Take her back to her shuttle. Let her leave. Let her tell her masters that they do not run from prey." Sora bowed again and turned to leave. As she walked back through the rows of warriors, she did not hurry. She did not look afraid. She walked like someone who knew exactly what was coming. They let her go. They watched her shuttle fly away into the darkness. Then they returned to their duties, still laughing about the foolish humans and their empty threats. 6 hours passed. The fleet continued forward. At exactly the 7th hour, every light on every ship went dark. It happened all at once across all 3,000 vessels. Engines stopped. Weapons went offline. Life support flickered and died. Even the emergency systems failed to activate. In the complete darkness, panic spread like fire. "What is happening?" Morrow screamed. "What have they done to us?" No one could answer. They were creatures of light and order. They functioned in swarms, following clear commands. In the darkness alone, they became afraid. Then a voice cut through the emergency frequencies. It was human, calm and cold, speaking in perfect language. "This is the destroyer HSS. You were warned. You did not listen. Now you will learn why humans are not prey." Morrow tried to respond, but his communications were dead. He could only listen as the voice continued. "You have entered our home. You have threatened our children. You have laughed at our mercy. We gave you every chance to leave in peace. You chose this. Remember that. You chose this." The transmission ended. Silence returned. Somewhere in the darkness, something moved. They could not see it. They could not hear it, but they felt it, a presence, a hunger, something that watched them with patient, terrible eyes. The first scream came from a ship at the edge of the fleet. It was brief, cut off suddenly. Then another scream from another ship. Then another. High Tyrant Morrow stood in the darkness of his throne room, surrounded by his finest warriors, and for the first time in his long life, he understood what fear truly meant. The humans were not hiding. They were hunting. The HSS moved through the fleet like a ghost through a graveyard. It was a Spectre-class destroyer, the most secret weapon humanity had ever built. It did not just avoid detection. It erased itself from existence. Captain Shin sat in the command chair, watching the data scroll across her screens. She was 40 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands. She had commanded for 15 years. She had never lost a crew member. "Status report," she said quietly. "All systems are down," said her tactical officer. "They are blind, deaf, and helpless. The EMP worked perfectly." Nodded. The electromagnetic pulse had been the easy part. Humanity had developed the technology centuries ago, but the pulse was just the beginning. The real weapon was already aboard the enemy ships. "Release the echoes," she ordered. On 12 vessels, something impossible happened. Figures appeared from nowhere. They looked human, but they moved too fast, too smoothly. They made no sound. They cast no shadow. These were the echoes. They had once been soldiers who died in battle. Their bodies had been rebuilt with technology that should not exist. Their minds had been uploaded and distributed across millions of tiny machines smaller than dust. They could not be killed because they were already dead. They could not be stopped because they were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. One echo, designation HANA7, walked through the corridors of a cruiser. Her real name had been Han. She had been a sergeant in the Marine Corps. She had died 12 years ago, defending a colony from pirates. She remembered her daughter's smile. She remembered the smell of rain on summer mornings. Now she was something else, something between human and machine, something that existed only to protect the species she had once belonged to. They could not see her. Their eyes were designed for light, and she existed in frequencies they could not perceive. She moved past warriors who stood frozen with fear, their weapons useless in their claws. She touched each one gently, and they fell. No blood, no wounds. Their hearts simply stopped. On the flagship, High Tyrant Morrow ordered his guards to form a defensive circle around him. There were 200 of them, the finest warriors in the Dominion. They had never lost a battle. "Something is on this ship," Morrow hissed. "Find it, kill it." The guards spread out into the darkness. They moved in pairs, covering each other, following their training. They were not cowards, they were professionals. One by one, they disappeared. No screams, no sounds of battle, just silence. One moment a guard was there, the next moment he was gone. Morrow watched his warriors vanish like smoke in the wind. He counted them in his head. 200, 150, 150, 20. Then he was alone. "What are you?" he screamed into the darkness. "Show yourself." A voice answered from everywhere and nowhere. It was soft, almost gentle. "We are what you created, High Tyrant. We are the consequence of your choice." Morrow spun around, trying to find the source. "I am High Tyrant of the Dominion. I have conquered 200 worlds. You cannot kill me." "We are not going to kill you. Not yet. First, you will watch. You will see what happens to those who threaten our home. You will understand what you have done." A screen flickered to life in front of Morrow. It showed his fleet ship by ship. And on each ship the same thing was happening. Warriors falling, crews disappearing, ships going silent. "Stop this," Morrow whispered. "Please, I will leave. I will take my fleet and go. I will never return." "You were given that chance," the voice replied. "You laughed at it. You broadcast your mockery to the entire quadrant. You wanted everyone to know that humans were weak and foolish." The screen changed. It showed a recording of Morrow laughing, his mandibles clicking with contempt. "The mammals threaten us. How amusing." "We want everyone to know something too," the voice continued. "We want everyone to know what happens to those who threaten Earth. We want them to see. We want them to remember." Morrow fell to his knees. "I was wrong, I admit it. I was arrogant and foolish. Please show mercy." There was a long pause. When the voice spoke again, it was sad. "We showed you mercy when we sent the warning. We showed you mercy when we sent the messenger. We showed you mercy when we gave you 6 hours to leave. You rejected our mercy 3 times." The lights on the screen went out, one by one, as more ships fell silent. "Mercy is for those who accept it when it is offered. For you, there is only justice." On Sentinel-7, Admiral Park watched the operation unfold. Beside him, Commander stood in silence. Her face was pale. "How many ships remaining?" asked. 400 still have life signs, but the number is dropping every minute." Nodded slowly. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a deep, heavy sadness. "This is what we are," he said quietly. "This is what we become when someone threatens our children. I wish it were different, but wishes do not protect colonies. Wishes do not save lives." Looked at him. "Sir, will the galaxy understand? Will they see this as self-defense?" Turned to face her. His old eyes were filled with something she could not name. "They will see what they wish to see. Some will call us monsters. Some will call us heroes. But all of them, every species in every corner of the galaxy, will remember one thing." "What is that, sir?" "They will remember not to enter our space without permission." Outside in the cold darkness between stars, the fleet continued to die, ship by ship, soul by soul, until only silence remained. On Earth, life continued as normal. Children went to school. Workers traveled to their jobs. Families ate dinner together and talked about ordinary things. They did not know that light years away, an empire was being erased from existence. President gave a speech about education reform. She smiled for the cameras and shook hands with teachers. Only her closest advisors noticed the small device in her ear, feeding her updates from the front lines. 1,700 ships neutralized, the voice reported. No human casualties. Operation proceeding on schedule. Nodded at a teacher's question about funding. Her smile never wavered. This was the burden of leadership, to carry the weight of terrible decisions while pretending everything was fine. In the underground facility, Dr. Lee monitored her children. The echoes moved through the fleet like wind through leaves. They were efficient. They were thorough. They were also suffering. Watched the brain activity readings on her screens. The echoes remembered being human. They remembered love and fear and hope. Every time they ended a life, a part of them felt it. They did not enjoy killing. They simply did what was necessary. HANA 7 is approaching the flagship, her assistant reported. Closed her eyes. She remembered the young sergeant full of life and laughter. She remembered the funeral, the crying daughter, the flag-draped coffin. She remembered the day woke up in a new body, no longer fully human. How is she? Asked. Stable, but her emotional readings are elevated. Nodded, even as an echo still felt. That was the terrible beauty of the technology. It preserved everything that made them human, including the pain. On the flagship, High Tyrant Morrow had stopped screaming. He sat on his throne of bones, watching his empire die. The screens around him showed empty ships drifting in the void, 3,000 vessels, 2 million soldiers, all gone in less than a day. How, he whispered to the darkness, how did you do this? The voice answered. It was the same voice, calm and cold, but now there was something else in it, sadness perhaps, or regret. You asked the wrong question, High Tyrant. The question is not how, the question is why. Morrow looked up. Then tell me why. Why did you create such weapons? Why did you become this? A figure stepped out of the shadows. It looked human, a woman with short hair and gentle eyes, but she moved wrong, too smooth, too quiet, like a reflection come to life. Because we had to, she said. Her voice was soft, almost kind. Long ago, before we joined the galactic community, we fought wars among ourselves, terrible wars. We nearly destroyed our own planet. We learned that violence solves nothing. She walked closer, and Morrow shrank back in fear. But we also learned something else. We learned that there are those who do not want peace, those who see kindness as weakness, those who will take and take until nothing remains. She stopped in front of his throne and looked up at him. We wanted only to be left alone. We asked for nothing but peace. We built our weapons not for conquest but for protection. We created the echoes not to destroy others but to save ourselves. Morrow's mandibles trembled. Then let me go, let my people go, we will never return. The woman, who had once been Han, shook her head slowly. If we let you go, you will return. Perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps not in a year, but eventually you will return, and you will bring others. You will tell them that humans are soft, that we can be threatened, that our mercy is weakness. She reached out and touched his face gently. Her fingers were cold. We cannot allow that. We must send a message that echoes through the galaxy, a message that no species will ever forget. Please, Morrow begged. I have children, I have a family. The woman's eyes flickered with something that might have been pain. I had a daughter too. She was 7 years old when I died protecting our colony. She cried at my funeral. She still visits my grave every year, even though my body is not there anymore. She stepped back. I do this for her. I do this for every child on every human world. I do this so they never have to feel the fear that you brought to our borders. On every remaining ship, the echoes completed their work. No survivors, no witnesses, no mercy. The galaxy would hear of this, but only from human mouths. Only the human version of the story would survive. Captain Shin watched from as the last life signs faded. She felt nothing. She had trained herself to feel nothing. That was the only way to do this work without going mad. Operation complete, she reported. All hostile forces neutralized. Admiral Park's voice came through the communicator. Casualties? None, sir. All Echo units returning to base. And High Tyrant Moro checked her readings, still alive, awaiting final orders. There was a long pause. When spoke again, his voice was heavy. Bring him back. He will stand trial. He will confess his crimes. And then he will be executed publicly so the galaxy understands that we are not monsters. We are justice. Acknowledged the order and began the recovery process. Around her, the fleet drifted in the darkness. 3,000 ships, now tombs. 2 million soldiers, now dust. Humanity had won, but as looked at the silent fleet, she wondered if winning felt so much like losing. In the underground facility, Dr. Lee watched the Echoes return to their pods. They floated in the blue liquid, their faces peaceful, but she knew their minds were not peaceful. They remembered everything. Sleep well, she whispered. I hope you never have to wake again. But she knew that hope was foolish. The galaxy was vast and full of species who thought humanity was weak. More would come, more would test them. And the Echoes would wake again. They always did. 1 month after the disappeared, a Galactic Council ship arrived at the edge of human space. It was a diplomatic vessel, white and unarmed, broadcasting peace signals on all frequencies. But everyone aboard was afraid. Ambassador met them alone in a small shuttle with no weapons. He was a middle-aged man with a kind face and patient eyes. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He had negotiated treaties with 17 species. He had never failed to find common ground. The council had sent their best representative, a tall being called Diplomat from a species that valued neutrality above all else. Skin was pale blue, and its eyes held no emotion. "Where is the fleet?" asked immediately. Smiled politely, "Gone." "Gone where?" "We have detected no ships leaving your space. We have detected no battle debris. 3,000 warships and 2 million soldiers do not simply vanish." Smile did not change, and yet they did. Leaned forward. "Ambassador, the Galactic Council demands answers. The Dominion was a member state. Their disappearance is a matter of galactic security." Nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. He placed it on the table between them. "This contains our official record of events. The Dominion entered our space without permission. They ignored our warning. They rejected our final offer of peaceful departure. They threatened our citizens and our worlds." Picked up the chip but did not look at it. And then we defended ourselves. By destroying an entire fleet, by killing 2 million beings. This is not self-defense, Ambassador. This is genocide. Smile faded. His eyes became cold. "Diplomat, let me be clear about something. Humanity did not start this conflict. We did not seek war. We did not invade anyone's territory. We asked only to be left in peace." He stood up and walked to the window of the shuttle. Outside, the stars shone silently. They came to our space with 3,000 warships. They came with the intention to pass through our territory without permission, demonstrating that they could do whatever they wished. Today it was passage. Tomorrow it would be tribute. Next year it would be conquest. He turned back to face. "We sent a warning," they laughed. "We sent a messenger," they laughed again. "We gave them 6 hours to leave," they stayed. At every step we offered peace. At every step they chose violence. Stood up as well. "The Council will not accept this. You will be declared war criminals. Sanctions will be imposed. Your species will be isolated from galactic trade." Laughed. It was a small, quiet laugh, but it made step back. "Diplomat, do you know why we call our territory the Quiet Zone? It is not because we are silent. It is because those who enter uninvited never make a sound again." He picked up the data chip and pressed it into his hand. "Take this to your council. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity wants nothing from the galaxy. We do not want territory. We do not want power. We do not want war. We want only to raise our children in peace, to build our homes, to live our short lives without fear." His voice hardened. "But tell them also this: any species that threatens our children will share the fate of the. We do not make this threat, we make this promise, and humans always keep their promises." His pale skin had turned even paler. "You cannot intimidate the entire galaxy." "We do not wish to intimidate anyone. We wish only to be left alone. Those who respect our borders will find us generous friends. Those who do not respect our borders will find nothing at all." Walked to the door of the shuttle. Before he left, he turned one last time. "One more thing, diplomat. The High Tyrant Morrow survived. He will stand trial on Earth for crimes against peace. The trial will be broadcast to the entire galaxy. He will confess what he intended to do to our worlds, and then he will be executed, not in anger, not in revenge, but as a lesson." "A lesson in what?" His eyes were empty of warmth. "A lesson in consequences." The council vessel left human space immediately. Within a week, the trial of High Tyrant Morrow was broadcast across the galaxy. He confessed everything. He admitted that they had planned to enslave humanity after their conquest was complete. He admitted that they had considered humans nothing more than food. Then he was executed, quickly and without cruelty. His body was returned to them with full diplomatic honors. There were no more to receive it. The galaxy watched, the galaxy learned. Within a year, human space became the most avoided region in known space. Ships that approached the border often detected strange readings on their sensors. Something vast, moving just beyond perception. Something that watched and waited. Most ships turned back. Admiral Park retired to a small house inn on the coast of Korea. He grew vegetables in his garden and watched the ocean. Sometimes old friends visited. Captain Shin, now an admiral herself. Dr. Lee, older and grayer but still working in her secret facility. They would drink tea together and remember the long week. One evening, his granddaughter asked him what he had done in the military. He picked her up and set her on his knee. She was 7 years old with bright eyes and a curious mind. She reminded him of Hans' daughter. "I kept watch," he said, "so you could sleep safely." "Were you scared?" He thought about the question. He thought about the fleet, 3,000 ships strong. He thought about the echoes, neither alive nor dead. He thought about the weight of decisions that killed millions. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I was more scared of what would happen if I did not do my job. There are bad things in the galaxy, little one. Things that would hurt you if they could. My job was to make sure they never got the chance." She hugged him tightly. "Thank you, grandfather." He held her for a long time, watching the sun set over the ocean. In orbit, high above the Earth, the echoes continued their eternal patrol. They drifted between stars, watching for threats, waiting for the next warning to be ignored. They remembered what it meant to be human. They remembered love and fear and hope and loss. And they remembered always that some things were worth any price. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth's zone was sacred. Those who forgot would be reminded. There would be no second warning. In the cold silence of space, the echoes kept watch. So children could sleep safely. So humanity could endure. Forever.